Joining us now, Doug Kelly, CEO of the American Edge Project. Doug, good to see you again, sir. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, Gerard. Thanks for having me again.
All right, so you recently wrote an article, an op-ed, entitled "Who Will Build the Future, Autocracies or Democracies?" Tell us what you mean by that exactly.
Yeah, sure. So technology isn't just another sector of our economy, right? It's the very backbone of our national security, our economic prosperity, and also advancement of our values. Now, for many years, the U.S. was a recognized global technology leader, but China's been making serious investments as well as stealing our technology, and they're really competing with us to be number one. And at the end of the day, technology is really about geopolitical power, and it's going to determine who's going to lead the future. So the question is, do we want democracies in America building the future, or do we want China and authoritarian governments leading and building the future? But at the end of the day, that's really what it comes down to.
So are you concerned about any particular bills at the federal level that might be problematic with respect to this? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so there's good things that we can do, and there's bad things that we can do. I'll just give you one example of something that was bad, right? So, 20 years ago, Congress passed some short-sighted legislation that essentially shipped our manufacturing base overseas. That hurt our country, that we've never been able to recover from manufacturing, and China took that lead. So when it comes to technology, Congress did something great the other day when they passed the CHIPS bill, which is going to build more microchips in the United States. But they're also talking about passing a series of anti-innovation bills that would target our largest technology companies, our most innovative ones, with bills that would either break them up, restrict the lines of businesses they can go into, or limit their ability to acquire new technologies and scale them. All of that is going to hand an unearned advantage to China at a time when we need to be doing everything possible to accelerate American innovation.
Interesting. Any particular companies, Doug, that come to mind that might be in the crosshairs here that are critical to our edge in innovation? I share your concerns about China and the Chinese government propping up their industry, stealing our secrets, our technology, honestly, and then using that to come back at us. Any companies that come to mind that you're concerned about?
So the five biggest ones, right? So Meta, Amazon, Apple, and the others, those are kind of the ones that are in the crosshairs of the bill. But let's not kid ourselves. Those companies are essential to the entire technology industry in the country because, first of all, they invest a lot in startups. Some of the bills would allow them not to do that. Additionally, if you think about it kind of like an iceberg, what you see them doing every day is the above the water line. So that's your social networking or your e-commerce. But below the water, they're making multi-billion-dollar investments in artificial intelligence, quantum computing. And these are the technologies that are going to decide the future. And these bills would really hurt those companies' ability to invest in that area. Now, these five companies alone invest more in those technologies than the Pentagon does each year. So they're important. And look, they ain't perfect, right? They got some warts, they got some problems that people are frustrated with. But you can address those problems in a different way. You don't have to do really onerous regulation that's going to hurt our ability to compete.
Yeah. What about some of the companies that actually create the technology? When I look at Amazon, for example, and I look at and I think about the social media companies, I don't think as much about them as being creators of technology, but really more users of it and companies that leverage technology and innovation made by other companies. I think about, for example, Cisco, which makes most of the infrastructure that connects our world, honestly, which is embedded in virtually every digital interaction we have in this country. Oracle would be another one, HP, IBM, Dell, these sorts of companies, Salesforce.com, that create all this technology. I could go down a litany of them, of course. Are you concerned about them being in the crosshairs?
Well, a lot of regulations in D.C., as you know, they may be targeted in one area, but boy, they sure have a long history of spreading out too.
Yeah,
other
yeah, I agree.
organizations. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would also just add too that some of the biggest ones are both creators, but they're also accelerators too, right?
yeah,
They may not
sure.
make something, but they may acquire a small startup and then accelerate that company's product to a scale and pace and quality that the company couldn't have done originally on its own. And so there's
Yeah,
kind of they do it both ways.
yeah. So what's the rationale for those in Washington that seek to enact some of this legislation? What's their explanation, justification for it?
Yeah, well, sometimes they say the companies are too big. Sometimes they say that there's not enough competition. But I don't buy that premise because there's plenty of competition in the
Sure.
sector, not only among those platform companies themselves, but they're also competing on a global level with companies from China. And this is one of the biggest concerns that I have, right? I'm originally from Michigan, right, where we lost 300,000 manufacturing jobs due to short-sighted legislation.
Hmm.
So some of the challenges is that China subsidizes their companies. They prohibit our country companies from working in their area. And at the end of the day, China wants to make us more dependent on their technology, not just the
Right.
US, but all Western democracies and allies, because they see that as a lever that they can either turn off or turn down and restrict as a way to have leverage to make decisions that China wants. And
Yeah.
that's not a position of dependency we should put ourselves in.
Yeah, I think it's also fair to say, would you agree, Doug, that China thrives on the regime in China, the CCP, they thrive on the propaganda of going to their people and say, see, we told you it works better than it does in free capitalist America. Look at all this technology we're creating that's really starting to dominate and proliferate the world.
That's a great point you're making there. And when you think about just kind of some of the protests that went on there recently, China's big lie to its people about we need a great heavy surveillance state to protect you against COVID because no other country cares about their people and they're all dying. Well,
Yeah,
when the World Cup soccer was shown, China's been all these lockdowns. They
right.
see all these people together without masks, getting together, having fun, cheering for their team, and they're like, "Wait a minute, we've
Yeah,
been told a big lie." And so, like, look, America technology, we got our issues, right? They ain't
sure,
perfect at all. But at the end
sure.
of the day, when Russia invaded Ukraine, American technology companies were knocking down Russian propaganda. They were building
That's right.
patches for the different cyber attacks that Russian technicians were trying to do. But China's technology companies and China itself were echoing Russian propaganda. And we can't do anything that makes ourselves more dependent on China's technology and doesn't allow the US to be the leader in technology across the board.
What about American Edge Project, Doug? What are you guys doing to combat this?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So we're active in a number of states, right? We try and educate the public and lawmakers about what's at stake, about the importance of who builds the future. And so you can find more information about our organization. And we run TV ads, we do radio appearances like this one. You can find more of us at AmericanEdgeProject.org. And I just encourage your listeners, if they care about this issue and they want to make their voice heard, pick up the phone and call their lawmaker in DC and say, hey, listen, Mississippi has a great tech industry. America needs the strongest possible technology industry. Do not pass legislation that undermines America's ability to innovate because we're in a lame duck session where anything can happen right now. And some of the worst legislation is passed
You're right.
in lame duck sessions. So
You're absolutely right. Yeah, I just get worried anytime government thinks, well, we could come in and make this better, which is never the case. They always make it worse under this pretense that, well, we're protecting Americans here and we're protecting the integrity of an industry, of our overall economy by implementing all these crazy rules and regulations. It really never works. And you can't do it in an industry like this, which is a creative industry at the end of the day.
yeah, kind of like you were saying earlier in your show, look, the market has ways of working these things out, right? I mean, for a while, I'm old enough when I remembered, we had MySpace and others that were leaders and they could never be beaten.
That's
Well,
right.
others
That's
come
right.
along and innovate. So,
Yep, that's an excellent point as well. And we got to let innovators innovate and keep the long arm of government and their boot off their necks. That's what we got to do. Appreciate it, Doug. Thanks for joining us. Very informative. The website again, sir?
AmericanEdgeProject.org.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it, Doug. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, sir. Take care. Bye-bye.
Middays is taking a break right here.